The holiday season is upon us, and it's always a big party season. There's work parties, there's personal parties, and there's immense pressure to eat lots and drink lots. And that's very hard for anybody who just doesn't want to drink very much, but it's certainly difficult for people who are in recovery. Janice Rutgers from Community and Addiction Services of Niagara is with me today to talk about some tips on how people can survive the holiday season. So, Janice, welcome.
Thank you. Great to be here.
I know that, and even from personal experience, but I know lots of people who just don't want to drink a lot during the holiday season face a lot of pressure. But people who are in recovery, the pressure is so strong. Work parties, especially. Why aren't you celebrating with us? Come on, come on, come on. And how is it? I mean, how does that make people feel? I guess is the first thing, that kind of pressure.
Yeah, I think the holidays in general bring a lot of pressure for a lot of like a multitude of reasons. We have this expectation. It's the most wonderful time of the year. But for some people, it's really not, because there could be a lot of memories of past Christmases when people were using and the impact it's had on holiday gatherings. There's the time constraints, trying to get everything put together in such a short period of time. Like, we've got to get these presents bought. We've got to get the tree up. We've got to get baking done. And of course, the financial aspect of it too, right? So there's people who feel like, and especially in this economy, like it can be a really rough time of year. Then you add that layer of somebody who's in recovery. You're right. There's an expectation this time of year. We eat a lot, we drink a lot, there's parties, they're celebrating. And how do you navigate that as somebody who is in recovery? So I'm here to tell you there is some tips. There's definitely some things that somebody in recovery can do. And I would say the first thing is to have a plan before you go. If you're invited to a celebration of some sort, have a plan before you go. And that includes your exit strategy. Do you have a plan of how long you want to be there for? If it's just to show up and say hi and happy holidays to your folks, great. And that's okay. If you're planning on staying there longer, do you have a way to get home? So if you're not driving yourself, I would always suggest make sure you have your ride. If it's not you that's driving yourself, make sure you have a trusted friend or somebody who is driving you that is going to be willing to leave when you're ready to leave. Somebody who understands your situation and understands that there might be some triggers at the party, which might be detrimental to your own health and well-being. So the first thing I would say is plan ahead. And that includes, how long you're going to stay, your exit strategy, your transportation home, and having that supportive person who can help you to accomplish what your plan is, your exit strategy.
And of course, it's Hanukkah as well.
Yes.
Coming up. So there's the whole other pressure there. Sometimes I guess it could be double pressure. I think that's what we're talking about as well with the Christmas season. But it's not always possible to have that person, right? Because, if you're in recovery, it can be very personal. It's something that people don't want to talk about. People are embarrassed, right? Or, sometimes they won't even tell family. So it's really hard, especially if you're at a work party or somebody's house, to have that person who you trust enough with knowing you're in recovery and to take you home, be there for you. I mean, they may not want to leave the party once they're there.
Yeah. And I think you're right. I think, it's a very personal thing. If especially if you're recently stopped drinking or using, you don't have to explain to anybody. Here's the good thing. Here's the free will part. You can give as much or as little information as you like. And so maybe it's practicing some responses. If somebody offers you a drink, just a simple, no, thanks, I'm good. Or no, thanks, I'm not drinking. Or I'm good with this. Sometimes people don't need to know why they're not really interested in why you're not drinking. They just want to know if you'd like a drink. And that can be your kind of your quick and easy response. No, thanks, I'm good with this. My other suggestion would be bring your own drinks. Make sure that you have some options for yourself. I kind of use the thing, carry around your glass, whether that's soda, cider, kombucha, whatever it is that you drink. If that glass has generally got something in it, there's less likelihood somebody's going to approach you and say, hey, would you like a drink? So always have your own drinks. And I would also say for people hosting parties, please ensure that you have some non-alcoholic versions, whether that is a mocktail, a spritzer, a non-alcoholic spritzer, the cider, the pop, whatever it is, make sure you have some options, because not everybody's drinking. And even people who are not going into recovery or in recovery for the holidays, there's people who are just generally want to be safer and they want to get home safe. So they're the drivers. So make sure you have some of those options as well.
Yeah, some people just don't like to drink a lot.
Exactly.
There's always that. And then somehow you're supposed to drink a lot. One of the tips for where we are, which is wine country, that that people have learned is that if you drink white wine, because if you drink white wine and you say, hey, yeah, oh no, don't worry, I'll go get myself a glass. If you put in a little white wine and fill the rest of the glass with water, you can't tell. You can't look at it and tell that. No, it's true. I'm telling you, it's true.
I haven't heard that one, but yeah. Again, it's like you said, it's very personal. Somebody, whether they want to share that or not, somebody in recovery probably not going to even put a little bit of white wine in the glass because that could be enough of a trigger. But for those that are just kind of like, wanting to cut down, that's a good tactic.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I know people who want to go and have a single drink, and for some reason it's okay in September, July, or May to go and say, oh, you know what, I'm just going to have one glass of wine. And but then the holidays come and it becomes this huge. Then of course there's dry January, which really dry January doesn't help you during wet December. But I also find that people who are drinking, and some people are drinking until they're inebriated, even though that's not what they usually do. People who are drinking do not want someone who's sober around once they get to a certain point.
Right.
And then basically they just, can cut that person off. Now, the person can leave at that point, but sometimes people feel hostage in a situation like that, and they don't want to stand out as the person who leaves. There's two questions there. And one is, why is it that when you're at a party, you're with friends and you're not drinking and everybody else is, and it gets to the point where they just don't want to talk to you anymore because you haven't had anything to drink? Why does that happen?
Honestly, that has nothing to do with the person that's not drinking. That has everything to do with somebody else's feelings of they're having a good time, and they're having so much fun, and it's that stigma of, oh, you're not fun. You used to be so fun. That has more to do with that individual making those comments than the person in recovery. I know of a situation where somebody that I know personally had gone through a recovery program, a rehab program, and upon release had gone to visit friends. And the first thing the friend said is, hey, you want a beer? And it was kind of like, what are you doing? This person has identified they have an issue and you're trying to poke the bear. And you realize quickly that this doesn't have to do with they're testing the person. It's that they've lost their drinking buddy and they want their drinking buddy back. So I think it's that realization that this has to do more with the other person's need for you to be like them. But I would say the law of 2 feet. Be honest with yourself. If you're in a situation that makes you uncomfortable, or that you feel pressured, or that you're feeling triggered, walk away. And it doesn't necessarily mean you have to leave the party, although that is also an option. Maybe it's just finding somebody else, because there will be somebody else at the party who's also not drinking or not drinking as much, that you can have that conversation with. Like, walk away. Don't stay. You're not stuck in any situation. Walk away from it.
It's an interesting concept.
Yeah.
To look for the other people. Now, family. That's another sort of kettle of fish. Family is sometimes uncomfortable as well if you're not drinking. everybody in the family may not know that
Right.
you're in recovery because it's very personal. That's why we have a 12-step program at AA, which
Yes.
is you leave your name at the door, and that's it. Your privacy is incredibly important. So you don't always, not all of your family, necessarily knows.
Right. So I think the best thing you can do, particularly in a situation like that, is prepare for their patterns. If you have that uncle who's like, come on, have a beer, it's not going to hurt anything, or have a glass of wine, understand what your family members are like and be prepared with a response. And you can be firm but polite. Just say, no, thank you. I'm not drinking. No, thanks. I'm good. I'm not drinking for health reasons. And if they continue to pressure, again, it's that walking away, that law of 2 feet. Go find another family member that is more supportive or that is not going to put so much pressure on you. So if you understand the patterns ahead of time, think about how you're going to address it. Again, this is all part of that pre-planning before you even get to the party, right? How are you going to manage if you have this family member that you know is going to be putting some pressure on you?
I think that people who are brand new in recovery, they feel raw. Their emotions
Yes.
are raw. They're just grappling, sometimes minute to minute, to cope. So that's not as easy to say, hey, find a person, have a plan to go home. I think the closer you are to starting your recovery, obviously, the harder it's going to be. And part of the services that CASN offers, as in community addiction services, is that. And you offer programs and support for people who are trying to get away from their addiction. So when they're in a group now and they're brand new at it and they've just started the group, what's the advice for them when they're just feeling completely raw and frightened that someone might find out?
So, I mean, we have lots of programs and services, if you've mentioned. There's also the community services, AA, NA. I would say stay connected to your support system, whether that be an addictions counselor here at CASN, whether that be your colleagues at AA. Make sure you're staying connected to support, keeping in touch with the people who understand your goals, and being in touch with folks before things spiral out of control. Because the opposite of addiction is definitely connection. So make sure you're connected to those folks that are going to help you to continue to achieve the healthy lifestyle that you've chosen to.
Yeah, so you may have already made that connection. That would be part of what you are doing and working with people is in AA, for example, it's a sponsor.
Yes.
And that's the person you can call anytime and they will be there for you.
Yeah. And there are folks definitely who can do it alone, who quit cold turkey and they don't have the supports. But I think the majority of folks that are going through this, they need that added support, that person that they can talk to, the person that can talk them down off the bridge, so to speak. I think it's also important for somebody who, especially if they're new in recovery, is to be honest with themselves. What are your triggers? Maybe for somebody, it's like they didn't drink wine or mixed drinks or shots, but they love their glass of wine. So maybe it's being around other people that are drinking wine is going to be a trigger for them, or being in an event where, maybe they shouldn't go to a winery and plan on drinking juice because they know that that's potentially going to be a trigger for them of kind of what they want to do in their past life. Again, being honest with yourself, what drains your energy? Where is your cup not being filled up? And how does your addiction play into that? What do you need to feel safe and to feel grounded? So is that connection to others, connection to your counselors, connection to various community groups? It could be avoiding certain situations because they're triggers for you, understanding kind of those things that make you feel depleted.
What about other substances? So you go to a party, everybody's drinking, nobody's taking drugs, but cocaine is your problem or opiates are the things that you're in recovery for, does that get triggered from being at a place where there's alcohol?
So generally, when people have an addiction, it's to a certain substance. There's people who can be around people who are drinking. Their substance of choice is cocaine or whatever else it might be. So they may not be triggered by that. If that's a secondary substance, though, I mean, generally, if you have addiction, you have addiction. But it is generally localized to whatever your substance of choice is. There's, again, the same principles apply. You have to be really honest with yourself. Are you being triggered? Even though your substance might be cocaine, are you triggered because people are getting drunk and that euphoria? Is that what you're missing? Right? So it may not be that they're tempted to drink alcohol, but it's that they need that boost. They want that euphoria that they get from, say, using cocaine. So even though there might not be something offered at the party, it might be something that triggers them from when they leave that they seek out.
Right. Now, if we talk about having that person or someone in your family, is it getting, I don't know if easier is the word, but is it getting easier for people to talk about their addiction, given that there is a lot more awareness in the general public of all kinds of substance use?
I mean, I sure hope so, because, addiction it's a brain disorder. It is not a moral failing. It is not that, oh, well, if they would just stop using, their life would be so much better. It's not that easy. A lot of addiction stems from trauma, and often childhood trauma. And, if you're lucky enough to have a good childhood, bless, because a lot of people haven't had that, and it comes out later in life. So I think it's really understanding that if it was just a matter of stopping, there would be no CASN, there would be no AA, there'd be no NA. It's not that easy. It's the brain wants to get that high, that thing that makes them feel normal. And for some people, drinking to that extent just makes them feel normal. When they don't drink to that extent, they feel sick. And if we break a leg, we have an x-ray. We see the leg is broken. We know to cast it. We know to not weight bear on it until the bone knits together. Why do we think of addiction as different? Or, I mean, another example I use is if you're diabetic, people say, well, just eat better. Well, maybe your blood sugars can't regulate, and so you need medication to make that happen. We don't judge when it's something like that, but we tend to judge when it's addiction, because there's a lack of understanding about it. So yeah, having these conversations with your family is really important. You mentioned at the top of the show, you talked about Dry January. And I think the Canadian Cancer Society is doing a wonderful job of really saying, hey, here's the effects of if you use alcohol, you're more susceptible to 9 different kinds of cancer. And it's really anything. And when you think about it, if you drink something, all the parts that alcohol touches, your tongue, your throat, your esophagus, your stomach, your, intestines, your bowels, you're more susceptible to cancer. So we're learning more about it, kind of like we did with cigarette smoking. Cigarette smoking back decades ago was just this wonderful thing that everybody did until they started doing research and they found out how damaging it is to your health. We're moving in that direction finally with substances, alcohol.
Yeah, well, there's a movement out there now, and I think it's a real possibility that alcohol will be labeled with the same type of warning that, warning that if you are, I don't know if they're talking about one drink, but if you are over consuming, especially on a regular basis, that does increase your risk of cancer. That is, I think, a really foreign concept to people, because I mean, what you're saying is, it makes sense because it touches every organ, but we're so used to knowing that nicotine and the nicotine is the addictive part. Tar, sort of covered your lungs, and we don't think about smoking as doing anything but lung cancer. So it's really hard to, I would think now, to have the kind of education that we need on the effects of drinking alcohol beyond all of the other horrible things that can happen, which is,
Right.
drunk driving. You kill yourself or you kill someone else. We're a lot more aware of that in Uber and Lyft, and as you said, having a friend. Maybe it's Uber and you've ordered your Uber for 7 o'clock, and you say to somebody, "My Uber's here."
Mm-hmm.
But to take it to a health issue beyond my liver, is I think that's a bit of a struggle, a little uphill that we're going to have to do, and to get that awareness out there that the health issue is pretty widespread.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, and I think sometimes when people talk about addiction, they tend to focus on people that are unhoused. Like we work,
yes,
our office is in downtown St. Catharines, and we have many unhoused folks that are living rough or living unhoused. And people think, oh, that's straight up, that's what addiction is. That's what it looks like. And that's a piece of it. We have addiction does not discriminate. We have folks here anywhere from probably, 13 years old to 90 years old. It's across the age spectrum. Professionals, we have doctors, we have lawyers, we have, blue collar, white collar folks that are coming through our doors looking for help. There's big substance use in the trades sector, like things that people don't know that they need to know. It's not what they see the harshest of the harsh when they look at somebody who is unhoused, who probably got some mental health issues, maybe addiction issues, and besides housing issues. That is a little sliver. That's a little sliver of what we see through our doors every day.
we have now deviated into a whole other area of conversation. So we'll have to talk again. And you have a lovely holiday where people are just having fun.
Yes. Yeah. Let's hope everybody has fun and stays safe, and happy holidays to you and to your listeners.
You can listen to all episodes of Life Unscripted, Stories of Mental Health and Addiction, on your favorite podcast app or on my website at lifeunscripted.ca.